Yo tengo 8 años trabajando en la limpieza.
My name is Lucila Dominguez. I've been working 8 years in cleaning.
Ahora estoy trabajando con CTUL.
And right now I'm an organizer with CTUL.
¿No vas a presentar?
My name is Brian Payne. I'm an organizer with CTUL, and I'll be translating for Lucila. ¿Quieres hacer tu parte?
Tenemos 3 años organizando trabajadores de limpieza.
So at CTUL, we've been organizing for 3 years with retail cleaning workers.
En los últimos 10 años el sueldo ha bajado mucho y el peso de trabajo es el doble.
Over the past 10 years, wages have gone down significantly for workers while our workload has nearly doubled.
La razón es porque las corporaciones ponen a competir a las compañías de limpieza.
The reason we see is that large corporations pit a lot of cleaning companies against each other in competition.
Por ejemplo, Target.
If we look at the example of Target,
se descubrió que en algunos documentos que Target tiene un proceso de competencia para contratistas que llevan 3 rondas.
we uncovered some documents that shows that Target has a 3-tiered competitive bidding system for cleaning contractors to gain contracts.
En los últimos 10 años ha habido 5 demandas federales de compañías de limpieza que limpian Target.
Over the past 10 years, there's been 5 federal lawsuits against different cleaning companies that clean Target stores around the country.
Entre ellas, la compañía de Diversify.
Among those was the company Diversified Maintenance.
Los trabajadores pusieron una demanda por robo de salario aquí en Minnesota.
Employees of Diversified Maintenance filed a lawsuit for unpaid overtime wages right here in Minnesota.
Algunas semanas atrás, el juez decidió que Diversify tiene que pagar la cantidad de $675,000 en sueldos robados.
Just a few weeks ago, a judge made a decision that Diversified was going to have to pay $675,000 in back wages and damages to the workers.
Y 25 trabajadores que limpian tiendas de Target aquí en Minnesota pusieron una queja con OSHA.
25 workers who work cleaning Target stores in the metro area for different cleaning companies recently filed OSHA complaints
por no darles entrenamiento en sus trabajos y mantenerlos cerrados mientras ellos trabajan.
for the lack of proper safety trainings and alleging that they were locked in stores overnight.
Es por eso que hemos visto que es necesaria poner esta ley para que las corporaciones como Target se hagan responsables de estas compañías que no son responsables.
This is why we see it necessary to be able to pass a law like this, so that large corporations such as Target would take more responsibility when such things happen.
Muchas gracias por su atención.
Thank you for your time. Next, we'd like to invite Laura, who's currently working, and we'll invite the senator and the representative. Do you want to come speak up here?
Okay. Hi, my name is Alora DiPlacido, and I work for Urus Cleaning Coals. Many workers, like myself, have been told to work far beyond the bounds of what we were first told when we were hired on. And while doing this, we're working for less pay, and our hours are being cut, and also we're expected to do increasingly more amounts of work. In a lot of cases, I've been told to do whatever the manager asks to avoid the complaints of the Kohl's store. However, this is a difficult task for me because my hours have been cut from 10 to 15 hours per week, and I'm expected to do much more than I was previously working. Myself and my other co-workers have tried hard to stop this from happening, so we decided to go on strike. Some Urist employees have been retaliated against, and to fight this retaliation, we decided that we would go on strike, and I think that this would be a great bill to pass to be able to stop further retaliation from cleaning companies such as Urist and stop Kohl's from taking advantage of their employees and the company itself. Thank you very much.
Next, we'd like to invite Senator Patricia Torres Ray, who's helping put forth this bill.
Thank you very much for inviting us to be part of this important fight. We are here in support of the CTUL workers and to announce that we are sponsoring a bill in the House, Representative Carlos Mariani, and in the Senate, I am the author of this bill. And what we intend to do is not only to raise awareness about issues that impact so many families, so many workers that are not being paid for their work. They're not receiving their salaries, but also the fact that there are many companies that are entering into contracts without having the necessary resources to fulfill those contracts. So what we want to do is make absolutely sure that companies like Target, companies like Kohl's, Home Depot, will enter into contracts with cleaning companies that are administered in Minnesota, like Carlson, Urist, Prestige, and Diversify. Many of these workers work for these companies. They clean these important buildings that we value and treasure in our from companies that we value and treasure in our communities and our state. But we need to make sure that they know that the people who are coming to their stores cannot afford to buy the products that they sell. These are families that clean grocery stores, that have food that these families can barely afford for their own families. So we think that there are unfair practices that we need to correct, and this bill attempts to do that work. So thank you to the CTUL workers for letting us know about these practices. Thank you for educating the legislature about the work that you do, the important work that you do for our communities, and really educating the public about the fact that so many people who work in these buildings really cannot afford to provide for their families. These companies are making tremendous profits today, and we feel very strongly that we need to speak on your behalf.
Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon. My name is Carlos Mariani, and today in the House floor, House File 1013 was formally introduced, and I want to say that I'm very proud to be authoring this piece of legislation along with Senator Torres Ray on behalf of our hardworking workers and families across Minnesota who work in this retail sector of our society. Some folks might say, well, Minnesota is such a strong labor state. What's the problem? This sounds like something that occurs in non-union states, if you will. Well, the truth is that the practices have evolved over time. We obviously have a strong set of labor laws in the state of Minnesota, backed up by federal laws as well. But what you have are new practices in which big employers, who are in fact indeed quite profitable, are using intermediaries, if you will, to be able to access hardworking workers to keep their enterprises going, while minimizing their responsibility in terms of labor law and employment relationships with these individuals. And what they're doing is through this sort of little bit of sleight of hand, pretending that their expected bid requests would have no impact on the wages of these workers and the benefits of these workers, or for that matter, on the protections that these workers ought to be having. They're pretending that those bids are set at a level that will guarantee a living wage for these individuals, when nothing could be farther from the truth. And the disturbing thing is that in Minnesota and across the country, we've seen the wages of individuals in this retail service sector continue to drop. So imagine your wages are going down over time while you're continuing to work hard, while the middleman, who's being increasingly squeezed by these lower bids, are in some cases reverting to practices that are illegal, withholding wages, not properly documenting hours worked, demanding more and more for less and less pay for these workers. And And so we can easily, I suppose, point our fingers at the middleman, if you will. But quite frankly, the whole stage is set by the bids that are being established by these very sophisticated, I would say, corporations who really ought to know better. They ought to absolutely know that the level at which you're putting these bids out can only produce much lower wages and can only encourage violations of our labor laws. It's a curious, Senator, it's a curious sort of loophole that exists in Minnesota law, and so with the hard work of Centro de Trabajadores Unidos and La Lucha, the Center of Workers United in the Struggle, they've presented us with a model piece of legislation that has been passed and implemented in other states for Minnesota now to modernize our labor protections for hardworking people in Minnesota. And so I'm really looking forward to the discussion, the debate, the votes, and hopefully strong action on the part of Minnesota for our hard workers. Let me just say one final thing, and that is that these workers are heavily drawn from immigrant communities, from communities of color, obviously very diverse communities, but we're talking about the communities that, by and large, are growing sectors in Minnesota. We need these workers to be successful in order to continue to drive our prosperity in our state. And frankly, we need their children to be successful. It's very hard to be a successful child in our schools when your parent is making less money, working harder, and being denied, what you're legally entitled to in terms of worker protections. And so, in many ways, our school systems also suffer as a result. Obviously, our entire society suffers as a result. So we're saying an end to the loophole. Let's get labor justice and practice back into our laws here, which really align with good Minnesota values, and let's stand with our hardworking brothers and sisters in this sector. So with that, Senator, I don't know if there are any questions we'd be glad to answer or expound on.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
If not, thank you.
All right. Gracias.